Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. Welcome to episode number 183 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. So if you've ever felt frustrated that this is it, and that whatever job, role, health, business that you currently have is it and is the pinnacle, then you're likely at the cusp of your next big leap. And it could be a transition in your career, or maybe even a turning point in the season of your life where you're considering new ways of living, of working, of being. But either way, that itch for growth, for change, for this new energy to come into your life is there for a reason. So I am in the process of taking my next big leap. I think we always are in the process, but let's call it what it is. So in today's podcast, I want to share with you what I'm doing right now to clear the space for the leap. So I think many of you will resonate with this, but I can sometimes be impatient for the next thing to arrive. And I am considered by many people to be a fairly patient person, but I actually am a bit impatient. I like to turn ideas into action fairly quickly. I like to see tangible results from my ideas. And so this whole idea of spiritual achievement comes from my own desire to marry that spiritual sense of having a belief, an idea, a system of thinking that inspires you into action and then seeing it come to life. And that is just so fulfilling for me. And in the process, I have grown accustomed to knowing that feeling when it comes, the feeling that this is an idea, like a great idea, that this is the thing. And it's not unusual for me to be in a period of excitement and of work when the inspiration comes in. It often feels like waves, like it's just the next one coming and okay, and here's the next, like just keep them moving. Yet it doesn't always feel like that. It doesn't always feel like life feels fully inspiring all the times. And in those moments, what I've realized is that all of those moments before were the preludes to those big inspirational moments. So if you watch the ocean, you'll notice that there are ebbs and flows constantly. And in fact, it's not even the thing that occurs in the moment. Like I have this idea and it occurred, and it came from me doing this thing, but it's that sense of congruence, that feeling in your body that what you're thinking and feeling is going to come to life, and it completely makes sense to you now. And then from there, taking action becomes so easy. And we're all looking for that. I know I talk to a lot of people, whether they're looking for their next business idea or they're trying to figure out how to make this thing work. They're waiting and trying to find that feeling of, yes, this is it. It seems so obvious. And I promise you, it is available. It is there. And that is my work, is of teaching and coaching you to figure out how to have more of that deep knowing, trust, and intuitive, inspirational moments that come with a real life of lived experiences. Yet, we're often not even aware that we're having inspirational moments. So sometimes when people talk to me about having, precognition or the ability to know things, or even just how do I tap more into intuition, into energy, it starts first with this idea of creating space. We're not aware many times of even the level of intense joy, of fearlessness that we can have at this very moment. We often are sleeping, maybe just a nap through our days. And we're just impatiently waiting to wake up. We're waiting for someone to jostle us and say, hey, this is it. Like, this is the life. Let's get up. Let's get out of bed and do something today. And so this is me waking you up. If you're a bit asleep or if you're awake, you're probably like, yes, this feels like truth running through your veins. And I want to offer that if you're feeling that way, that the sleeping part is just this kind of haze over your days. What if that wasn't the case? What if there are just natural ebbs and flows of energy and that you don't need a big wake up call? You just need to know that there are natural ebbs and flow of energy, that being tired, being exhausted, being burnt out is not a problem because your lower points are making space for what's coming next. They serve as a contrast. Sometimes you're resting. Sometimes there's a reason for you to be in the state that you're in. And it does not mean that you're not going to feel invigorated again. It does not mean that you're not going to have the energy again. It does not mean that you're not going to get tired and want to change something so that you can move forward in life. That is all available. And so this is what I believe. I used to think I needed to hurry it all up, hurry up and get past that lower ebb of energy, hurry up and just do the stuff. But the biggest thing about hurrying is the energy that comes with hurrying. If we hurry and rush and we are impatient because we think we're trying to get somewhere and arrive somewhere and go somewhere else, it assumes that wherever we are is better than this. Like, not wherever we are is better than this, that wherever we want to be is better than where we are. The assumption is that life right now can be better. And the truth is that, yes, it likely can get better. But the question becomes, can we feel okay, even if we know it can get better? Can we move appropriately at the speed that we desire to without the impatience of fear and of desperation that comes with hurry, hurry, hurry? So not everything has to go your way for it to be helping you make space. That's a common myth where we think, okay, well, look, if things were going my way, I would have had this by now. This would have happened. All of these things will line up. This person would have done this thing. Someone would have done more in this realm. I would be more supported in these ways. So I want you to think back and remember a time that something didn't go your way. And I remember for me, it was college. And I was thinking that I wanted to go to Italy to study abroad. It seemed so romantic. And just this idea of like, oh, Italy, like, isn't that such a dream to go study abroad in Italy? And I really wanted to study abroad. I don't know why. I just had always this interest in travel, just an excitement about going somewhere and of seeing something new and being in new places. So as I was completing the application for the study abroad, I found out that there was a language requirement to study at the Bocconi Institute. And I didn't know Italian and I couldn't study business textbooks in Italian. So there goes my plan. And I remember going down the list. I saw that Hong Kong was also on the list of places that I could study abroad at. And there wasn't a language requirement there. They taught in English. I had just come back from 2 weeks of traveling with my family there. And I remember it was fun. It was exciting. There was great shopping, this bustling metropolis. The food was so good and this amazing mix of East-West cultures. So, okay, let's do it. And I didn't know what to expect, but off to Hong Kong it was. I was excited about the idea of the amazing backpacking that I would do, the adventures I would have. And it felt very much like a story, like, oh, here we go, right? We're going to have this big adventure. And then the moment arrived, after taking the airplanes, taking the buses with the luggage, which, what were we thinking? But again, college students and, making it work was what you got. So we did that. And I was in Hong Kong. I was at the University of Science and Technology, HKUST, to study business for 6 months. And this school was looking out over the water. It's amazing in terms of, I was not expecting the view. It was an open air campus. So that was so interesting to me, coming from the East Coast, where you're in an almost tropical environment, essentially, where you could have open air buildings. And even though I arrived at night, I could just feel in the humidity, the stickiness, the sense of me being in a completely different space from the language, right? All of it. It was just so different from the US. I remember going into my dorm that first night, getting all my stuff and closing the door. My roommate hadn't arrived yet because I got there early. And I looked at myself in the mirror. There's a mirror in the back of the door. And I thought to myself, what if this was a bad idea? What was I thinking? I've never been this far from my family before. If something happens, it would take them a long time to get here. And I've never been away for this long. And it just really sunk in, that feeling of like, what did I do? And this questioning of my choices. Then I backpacked. I got there early, about 10 days-ish early. Backpack, I met amazing people there. I met amazing people at the school. I met my now husband, Jay, or Jason, if you've met him, and became friends with him also. And I started blogging at that time, writing, journaling. And it was just this explosion of growth of food, travel, friendship, love, and from the most unexpected and unknown destinations and places. I was expecting that it would be an adventure. I was not expecting to meet my husband. I really even said, I'm not the type for flings. People were saying, oh, maybe you'll have a fling there. I was like, no, I'm not having a fling. And I would like to say for the record, I didn't, because I married Jay. So it was not a fling. It was something that ended up being long-term, but it's just funny because you think about that level of newness, of unknownness, the not knowing anyone or anything about what was going to happen. And I came back and I found out from someone who actually went to Italy and studied abroad there that there wasn't a language requirement. I could have gone, I could have studied in English. And it's just so interesting how life works. Would I have met Jay? Who knows? I like to think I would have. Right? That we are so tied and connected that we would have found each other. But I tell you this because these big leaps often require us to make space for the unknown. And in a life where we have things scheduled down to the wire, it is naturally going to feel weird, sticky, scary, strange to be making so much space for the unknown. And to see that when plans go awry, that they are actually the opportunities that clear the way for what's to come. So many of you have not gotten the jobs you wanted, or maybe been displaced from the current roles that you're at. And at first, there's that feeling of shock, of sense of grief or loss or confusion, but there's also this sense of opportunity, this sense of wow, the sense of what if this is a gift? And many people, it actually is. And I want to encourage you, because we're always in a state of being rejected from something, or seeking something, or wanting something, or desiring something, where there is a gap between what you have and what you want. And so knowing that you will go through these ups and downs where you'll find that you need to make a decision, and then you'll get stuck somehow, and then you'll find a solution for that stuck thing, and then you'll get excited and you're going to do the work to get there, and then you're going to wonder, did I make the right decision again? You will always have those questions. So in all of this work, we're constantly making space for the next thought, the decision, and the idea to come through. And if you do not make that space, you will not have a next big leap. You will not have a next new life, because without that, you are literally repeating the same days, day in and day out. And I know that that is not what you desire. That's not what you want. So just know that this wobbly bit that you're in right now is a place where more new, different things are coming in. You will have the space for ideas and thoughts that you've never had before. That is the whole point. The whole point is that if you've had those thoughts before, you would have done something different and felt something different. You're looking for new ideas, new ways of thinking, new beliefs to take in so that you can come out the other side with a new set of things that are happening for you. These new thoughts are energy. And that new energy allows us to be okay with self-doubt, with the unpredictability of the human experience, and loving it the whole way through. And when I made my transition into the coaching work, the training work, the facilitation work, retreat work, I've had so many moments of excitement, of inspiration, as well as those moments where I have self-doubt, wondering, did I make the right decision here? And what has helped me through this that I want to share with you was that I realized I have no blueprint because I'm creating my own version. And every time I thought I was wrong, I wasn't actually wrong. I was just not working with the same set of circumstances and information, therefore, as someone else. And I would look to the right, I would look to the left, and be like, well, I must not be doing it right because this person is doing it differently, has had different results. And I desperately want to tell you that you're okay, right? I wish someone had told me then that you're doing it the right way. Oftentimes we might meet people who, because they're not sure if they're doing it the right way, will be like, I don't know. And then it's the blind leading the blind. And so what you need is this pillar of trust, this pillar of belief. And if you don't have it in you, find someone who has it for you, the one that can hold you steady. Because in those moments of indecision, what you need most isn't the right decision, quote unquote. It is understanding how you're making the decision, why you're making the decision, the reasons for you to do it that way, so that you can articulate, you can have your own back the whole way through. And then defending it becomes a very different thing. And I think that our life is made up of all the decisions that we have made, that they shape the course of our life. And so decision making happens to be something that you can get so good at, not because you're making the right decision, but you're trusting yourself more. You're learning so much every time. You're allowing new thoughts, new energy, new experiences in to help shape the way that you make decisions so that you can see what happens. And guess what? Belief doesn't mean saying everything is always working and that it all feels good. But you can, in those moments of things being messy and not feeling good, still have deep moments of clarity, deep moments that are there for you to come back to, even when life is messy. And I found that when I can find that, even in the messy points, it's because I've found space for more expansive thinking, seeing beyond the minuteness of the problem that I'm in. For example, I'm creating space for what's next. What that involves for me is really leaning into getting out of my head by traveling, meditating, but not like meditating on just the day-to-day experience, but like meditating and allowing myself to access another level of consciousness realms, of just kind of going to places of asking myself what's really deeply important and why I'm doing what I'm doing in the first place. Going on retreats. There's a reason I have so many retreats. It isn't because they're just fun. I also go on trips and those are fun. But these retreats are these deep moments of expansive thinking, of recalibrating the energy that you feel around you in your body, and also starting to witness what life looks like when you live in completely different ways. And what I found is that when I do that, when I have that, when I'm in that state of being, which is vibrating at a higher frequency, which means that I'm not so caught up in the day-to-day small stressors, I found that those macro decisions that I've made about who I'm with, what I am about, what I am doing in my life, I'm not going back on those. That's not where the self-doubt comes in. It's the micro decisions, the small ones of, oh, I changed my mind on this thing. Actually, that is worth revisiting. The mind often follows our body. So the ways that I remind myself of what's important is to do the things that get my body to feel these deeper emotions. So when I go to new places, I get re-inspired. When I meet new people, when I see expansive views, body, right? Then the mind follows. I have more expansive thoughts, like going to a mountaintop or being in nature. When I write and read on airplanes, for some reason, that's like a magical experience for me as well. And my formula always includes the spiritual. I was just thinking about it the other day because I was reading this book, Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani, and it really struck a chord in me for various reasons, in terms of she essentially has cancer, has a near-death experience, writes about that, and comes back to life with this new sense of vigor, and ends up completely healing the cancer in that near-death experience because of the level of energy that she was accessing, and what she knew, and the kind of truth of her experience for her changed the way that her body was. And so that type of reading for me is also part of my own formula, and it might not be for you. So I do things like I really tap into that question of what life is really about. What am I here to give? What am I here to receive? And when I tap into that spiritual energy, which is what that is, it fuels everything else. I come back from my meditations, my trips, my retreats, like a new person. I can be in the most mundane places with that energy, and I will feel full of life, inspired, like there's this fountain of youth that I'm drinking from. And I used to think that it was selfish to spend time by myself or for myself. It seemed really trite to say I come back with more love for my family, even though I was away from my family, but it was the truth. And when I created space for myself to be, it will look like, I'm telling you, these are really little things. It will look like things like finally saying yes to a purchase, like, oh, I bought some pajamas for myself that I've been wanting to make, or these towels, right, for the family, or going to places that I've wanted to go. And not because I feel like I just have to, but I get that like deep level of this all makes sense and I can see the connection, and this is why, and this is why. Like, for example, I'm looking at these trips to Mexico, but they have all this reason that all makes sense behind it. And when it drops in with that level of depth, you're more willing to spend the money, take the time, make it work than you are for just an idea that feels like, good. Then you're like, well, I don't know if we should spend the money there. It's like we're taking a lot of time, versus when you really know and you're really behind it, that energy creates the momentum that makes everything actually easier. Then that's why people often don't go to the spiritual first, is because they can't see it, first of all. But if you've ever accessed it, you've ever had that deep belief, that inspiration, that knowing that comes from a spiritual experience that often is deeply emotional and healing and cathartic, you remind yourself of what it could feel like and what is possible and where life could go if you continue to live it this way. So the examples I share might not be yours. It may work for me because my conditioning has been to withhold, right? To assume that what I want isn't that important. I try to do a lot of work around not needing things also, right? So I also hold off on purchases sometimes for a very long time. And sometimes I'm like, I should have just bought that thing and gotten usage out of it way earlier. So that's why for me, that is my work. And taking up space becomes my work. To want things, to not be upset about wanting things is my work. And so the more that you're aware of what your conditioning is, the easier it is for you to understand what your work is. And the formula becomes much more clear for the little actions, right? So the formula isn't obviously not to do spiritual work or not to have deep belief and faith in what you're doing, but maybe the actions that you take are a little different than the ones I am. What I've become also more aware of is the more I'm aware that I care about what others think, the more that I can create space for myself to be both diplomatic and direct. So I realized you don't have to swing on this pendulum of people pleasing and then resentment. You can really be intelligent about your decisions. You can be really adventurous as well. And even the thought of being fearless doesn't mean you need to be callous. It doesn't need to be thoughtlessness about your decisions. And so when I think about creating space, it's not like throw out the old life you've had and run towards this new one. It looks like for me, what I visualize is almost an expansion. That's why I meant taking up space. Often we kind of withdraw from people when we're in these places of transition. And I'm not saying maybe you don't go to new places and find, new spaces that feel a little safer for you, but those are temporary. And the real work will often include both. So I always think of it as an expansion of my capabilities when I think about creating space. And I encourage you to think about that for yourself. What strong gets even stronger. It becomes even more bold. It lifts you up and it lifts everyone up around you. Who I am now at 41 is essentially who I was when I was a child. I still love animals. You can probably hear this little purring kitten, maybe. If the mic is really sensitive, you probably can. I still care a lot about people. I love food. I have a soft spot for elderly people. I care about family, although that's becoming more apparent as time goes on, that like I just have this very mothering energy. I like to try new things, and I like organizing things and being inspired. And I loved quotes and helping people. So you just start to see, right, that who I am is just more of who I am. And to be even more courageous to do what works for me will help make space for other people to do what works for them. So this is what's so exciting about this next big leap for me. I'm, very tactically, I'm doing things like creating space for group programs so that I can work with people on more of this expansion of marrying their spiritual self with their professional selves, of looking at life holistically, and of just really solidifying what I'm here to do and who I'm here to serve, and getting clear on what people need and how I can help them, and being more bold about the places that I go and the things that I do and what's fun, and not caring so much about it having to be the end all be all, right? And to try more things. So you're going to see some new and fun things come your way as I go on this journey with you all. But I wanted to share this because even though the underlying assumption is that as I grow and expand, it helps people around me, it sometimes is a little uncomfortable. But I've realized that the discomfort can be mitigated with better skills. And so there's a place and time for just believing and wanting and desiring, taking action, and just brute force doing the thing. And there's a space and time for finesse and having more skills at your disposal, having more tools of what to do and how to do things so that the road isn't as bumpy as it has been. And so that's the marrying of the achievement part, where you want actual practices for how you manage your time or how you manage your energy, and ideas of what meditations to do and when, and what places to go and when, and practices that help your body and your mind become a little bit more still when you face the chaos, how to deal with difficult people, and how to become even more emotionally intelligent. And that's why you are also part of the solution for when things are uncomfortable. And if I'm coming from a clean space, like I'm doing what I know and I'm looking in to my side of the street, I'm saying, am I taking a big financial risk that doesn't make sense? Right? I still have a business mind. Is the ROI not strong? Is the strategy kind of weak here? I can ask myself that. And if I let my ego go and say, yeah, maybe I haven't looked at certain things and I need to do that now, then we just go and we solve problems, right? Someone brings something up to you. Okay, thank you. Now let's go look at that. And then you can clean things up. And then when you clean it up, you stop holding yourself back. So you stop worrying that you're going to hurt people and things in the process. And it takes a certain level of decision making for you to not have that all or nothing approach. And I've had to do the same. And I find that if I'm coming from much more neutrality, there are so many more solutions to the problems that we're facing. And that if we're okay with all of them because they're neutral, then we'll just figure it out. We'll prioritize, we'll figure out what has the biggest bang for the buck, what we need to go after first. And if we can't, if we can't get out of that neutral space or get into the neutral space, what we'll find it's truly the beliefs that we have, that we shouldn't make mistakes, that we should or shouldn't do something a certain way, that keeps us where we are from making it neutral, looking at the leap, but just never taking it. So I know this one might have been a bit meta as I shared kind of what I'm doing and how it has been helping me, but I wanted to share what's on my mind and how I'm thinking about creating space for that next big leap. So if you're on the cusp of that next big leap, we're enrolling in this next round of Spiritual Achiever coaching. And this month, we're going to dive into emotions and the intelligence that is this mind-body connection and what it can offer you about what's next and what to do next and now about the biggest decisions you're making in your life. Are you ready for it? And if so, you can join by going to mayemson.com/spiritual achiever. It is the hybrid group and one-on-one coaching experience where you will be supported for a full year. You will clarify your purpose, mission, vision. You will align the way that you live and work with your gifts. Your spiritual and professional purpose will come together. You will develop high performance, peak performers routines, and you will understand yourself and others so you can create better relationships along the way. So if this is for you, you're going to want to sign up, mayemson.com/spiritual achiever. You will also get access to the amazing Spiritual Achiever retreats that are coming your way. Deeply transformative. You will not want to miss out on them. And a whole slew of workshops and fun things that I have planned along the way for you guys. So really excited. I hope you all share this with your friends, this episode, and others that you have enjoyed. As always, I'm so thankful for you all listening. I feel it. I don't know who listens. So if you bump into me and you share it with me, I will always appreciate that. But I hope it helps you as you think about what you are doing next. And there's always room for you if you would like to join. We're never too busy for you. Love you, my friends. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I will talk to you next week. Bye now. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayemson.com. You'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.